in the film. Because you first started off as friends, right? You met through Facebook, and then you met together at the adoptee conference, and then you decided at some point to turn this into a film. And then we saw you in the film. So can you talk a little bit about that choice and what you had to grapple with?
Sure, yeah. I was very resistant to being in the film. I feel kind of shy about it. I think every line that is in there, I argued with my editor, like, maybe we can take that out. I don't think we need that one. And then she'd say, you just say that about every line that you have. But yeah, I think I felt very self-conscious of not wanting it to be detracting from Mika's story. But then in the end, it felt like I was trying so hard to crop myself out that it felt forced. So then in the end, meeting me, as she does, on Facebook seemed to make the most sense. And it was really important to me to try to show friendship and the resilience that we adoptees have among ourselves. And I think that's also what led me to introduce Ruth to Okyun. After hearing that Okyun had never met another birth mother, and I know as an adoptee, I don't know who I would be if I hadn't attended a lot of conferences and just met so many other people that share that experience.
And the journey, you said it's a 7-year journey to make this film. And can you believe that that they shot this film in only 20 days? You had 20 shooting days over those 7 years, but you really stretched it out. Like you did a lot with so little. Can you talk about that whole process?
Well, sure, yeah. Even though the shoot days were very limited, I kept in contact with Mika and her family the whole time, so I think we really benefited from the years of that bond, which I feel like you can see in there, of just a comfort. But yeah, it was definitely just a tactic to try to make the most out of the budget that I had. I was self-financed for the first year or two, so yeah, it was just about cramming it into as few shoot days as possible, because the fact that I was traveling from New York to be with them, it just meant I couldn't have the luxury of filming them for weeks and seeing what we had in there.
And I want to backtrack. Why did you make this film? What was it about this particular story that made you? And by the way, this is the first time you're directing a film. You went straight into directing a feature-length film. Amazing, and it premiered over at the Chicago International Film Festival. So that's huge as a first-time director. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So what was the impetus?
I think I always wanted to make films about my community, but then I think, growing up as an adoptee and just never hearing from birth parents, never knowing what's going through their head, it was definitely a lot of wondering and just mystery. So then I think when I heard about Mika's mom and her story and the fact that they had searched for her for over 10 years, I was just completely blown away that I had never considered that they could be the ones to initiate the search. Adoptees could be the ones to not be ready, perhaps. Yeah, I don't know, I just felt so strongly for Okyun even though I barely knew her. And then some of it was just, okay, we wanted to show a queer adoptee story and get some representation out there. And we were friends and we were like, we're gay, so let's do it. But yeah, I think the driving force was really just Okyun and her story.
Yeah, it's true. We've seen so many Korean adoptee stories, but never from the side of the birth family trying to find their birth child. I'd like to I think this is a perfect time to transition over to Ruth, so you can pass the mic over to Ruth. First of all, Ruth, thank you so much for being here. We're so grateful that you came all the way from Korea to be with us. And thank you for sharing your story and being there for Okyun in the story. Tell me what watching this film, what does it mean to you as a birth mother and also as a psychologist?
굉장히 제게도 치유적이에요. 그리고 조금이라도 입양인들에게 그리고 제가 만난 제 아들에게 제가 무언가를 할 수 있다라는 것만으로도 제게는 굉장한 진심으로 기쁨이고 그 친생모로서의 어떤 정체성, 존재감에 힘을 부여받는 느낌이에요.
It has been really healing journey for me joining this movie, and I was very happy to be contributed small roles into the movie, and
힘을 부여받는.
I felt really empowered through this movie as a original mother.
In this movie, you talked about how birth moms, our original mothers, are so looked down upon in Korean society. Do you feel that things have changed for original mothers, especially because you're doing some advocacy work? So I wanted to know, how is it like now, and what still needs to change?
이제 이 영화가 사실은 그 동성애 커플 그 영화인데 제가 아는 그러니까 게이 커플이 있었는데 이들 말고 게이 커플이 있었는데 저하고 얘기를 하게 됐어요. 친해지고 나서 제가 할 수 있는 이야기였는데 뭐라 그랬냐면 한국에서 그래도 당신들은 1년에 한 번 퀴어 축제, 퀴어 페스티벌 할 수 있지만 우리가 만약 1년에 한 번이라도 우리의 목소리를 내기 위해서 광장에 나가서 여기 친생모들 있어요. 우리 아이를 잃어버린 엄마들이 있어요 라고 말한다면 여전히 한국 사회는 돌을 던질 거다 우리에게. 그 말은 한국 사회에서 커밍아웃하는 그 게이 커플들보다도 훨씬 더 친생모의 지위가 낮다라는 거예요.
So she's saying she's known another gay couple in Korea, and then they've been celebrating annual queer party. So this movie is about the queer couple, adoptee couple, and then there's an annual queer party, and they were talking about that, and she felt the original mother's social status in Korea is even lower than the queer people like in Korea, because they could celebrate once a year. But what if the original mothers and their families are having party or celebrating themselves? People will be pointing at them and not take it as nice as other people to have their own rights and voices.
Wow. So Korea has a long way to go, if that's the case, then. It's just a comment that I'm making. I mean, I love our people, but they still have a long way to come, right?
저에게 용기 있다라고 얘기하는 거가 특별한 엄마라는 말이잖아요. 사실 저는 이제 한국 사회에서도 저처럼 용기 있게 말하는 사람이 특별한 엄마가 아니라 그냥 모든 엄마들이 다 이 말을 할 수 있는 사회가 되기 위해서라도 당사자로서 목소리를 계속 낼 거예요.
I made her that I'm really brave mom to be open for openly talking about my adoption story, and I want to be I want to be a mom, like not treated as special mom because of the publicly open the story, but she believes every original family and their mother should be open their stories without worry about social stigma.
I agree. And thank you so much for working towards that. From a therapist's perspective, are there things that those who do end up having a reunion, are there things that they should keep in mind? Any kind of advice that you can give?
상실을 먼저 인정해야 된다라는 거. 우리에게 가장 소중한 것을 우리는 먼저 잃어버렸고 지금 다시 찾았지만 이전과는 다를 거라는 거를 자각해야 된다라는 거. 항상 그 이야기를 하죠.
So I would give advice that we have to accept that we have big loss of the time and relationship and bonding, and people would have to start from there to acknowledge and grieving for their loss and the time.
재회를 하고 나면 다시 재애착이 필요해요. 리어태치먼트가 필요한데 속도가 엄마와 자녀가 같지가 않더라고요. 한 사람이 빨리 갈 때가 있고 한 사람이 늦게 갈 때가 있고 그때도 서로 기다려줄 수 있는 힘을 길러야 된다라는 얘기를 해요. 저는.
So the reunion is a reattachment, and the pace of the reattachment, wanting the reattachment could be different from the original parents and the adoptees. So when the speed and pace difference, then we have to learn that how to wait for each other to have the moment together.
Okay, we're going to go back to Jota. 감사합니다. So Ruth talked about how the importance of grieving, and Mika's parents never had a chance to really grieve, and I think that's what they did this whole time over here in this film. And I was extremely, extremely touched by the father, because we never hear about original fathers, rarely. And in many cases, there is no, like, the original father's not even in the picture, but in this case, it was the original father who, it was through his sheer will and determination to get back in touch with Mika. And we rarely see that kind of story. And the fact that he just spilled his guts out, can you, like, how in the world did you get him to do that? Because of all the shame and the guilt that's associated with relinquishing your child in Korea, you know, to be able to go on camera and to spill your guts like that is really something.
Yeah, for sure. I was equally blown away by how emotionally raw he was. I think one special thing about the film is that translation was such an issue for them all the way through, that when we first said we're going to interview them and then translate everything, I offered to exchange it. So everything that Mika said was given to her parents in Korean, and everything that they said was translated to English for her. So I think in a way a lot of the rawness and the vulnerability that you see in there is because they're really talking to each other through the film in a way. And then I think it was really powerful for us to all actually watch it together for the first time. You know, we had all seen it, but not in the same room. So to see them watching it together in Seoul, it felt like the first time that they were having an experience in real time and both understanding it, because the film had English and Korean subtitles.
Yeah.
So there would be a joke and they could laugh in the same moment, you know?
Right, like Mika didn't know that her mom was about to tell her that her hair was too short before her sisters told her, don't say that, right?
Right.
And there's like so many great little moments of levity, catching the mom falling asleep. I love the marriage certificate that said Mr. Mika, yes. Which was hilarious. And you actually were telling me that Mika's actually quite funny, and she's yes. wild and charismatic, which is interesting because I felt she was very muted because of the language barrier here, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely most of the film was shot in Seoul, and you know, she's surrounded by her family. It's the most stressful situation she finds herself in, usually. But yeah, I think it was also important to show just the voices of all the other family members too, and how it kind of ripples out even to someone like her niece, who you think is a bit further from the situation, but she is being trained as a translator right now, so it's deeply affecting her life as well.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah, so when she came to New York, they were like, here we go. Wow. I've been paying for your school, you know, your I'm blanking out on the name of the school they go to after school.
But you mean the Hagwons? Oh,
Hagwon,
yeah.
Yeah. So they're like, we've been paying for that Hagwon, you better deliver. And
Yeah.
so she got an iPhone for her work.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Before I turn to the audience, I also want to mention how like they didn't even bat an eye at her queerness and about her marriage, except for the date, of course. And I was really proud of that. I was personally very proud of that, but also because it's so, I don't know, do we see that? Like full acceptance in that way? And I don't know, were they playing to the camera or was that just very sincere?
No, they definitely weren't playing to camera. They really love Marit so much. And as you see in the film, when they first met Mika, it was with Marit. So that was a bond that they all had together, I think. But it is confusing. I think in a way their acceptance of her is very conditional to their guilt over her adoption. So I do feel like the story that they sort of put out there is, well, we messed up and you had this traumatic life. We can't blame you for going down this wayward path because you were in a gay country and that's what they told you.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. At one point, one of her sisters asked me if all adoptees were gay. And I really debated putting it in or not, but I didn't want it to feel like we're laughing at her anyway. And also, just to be fair, in that story, it's because I had introduced her to only gay adoptees.
Right.
So it was a fair question.
Okay, on that note, I'd like to open it up to the audience. If anybody has any questions for either Ruth or Jota, please raise your hand. Yes, over there. Susan? Is that you, Susan?
Yes.
Okay.
I just wonder if Ruth has reunited with her.
Yes. And in fact, they met here in San Diego. I forgot to mention that. Thank you, Susan. Can Ruth share her reunion story about her son? Oh, very short?
Yeah.
Okay. Briefly.
3년 전에 제가 이곳으로 왔어요. 아들이 살았던 곳에서 아들에 대해 배우고 싶어서.
I came to US to meet my son where he lives to learn more about him.
아들이 샌디에고 오션사이드 쪽에 살고 있었고, 아들과 아들의 캠프 펜들
Camp Pendleton. 네.
거기서 아들이 5년 동안 있었던 곳 이렇게 다녔고, 제가 지금 여기 샌디에고에 와서 이 일을 하고 있는 게 굉장히 지금 좀 뭐라 그래야 되죠? 감동인 거죠.
So my son lived Oceanside for 5 years, and then I met him 3 years ago, and it was really touching for me to speak and invited this event in San Diego, especially where I was united with my son 3 years ago.
I asked, by the way, if he was going to be here, but he's a musician and he's performing in LA. So that's really wonderful. And he has a whole extended family and she has grandchildren as well. So.
오늘 사실 이 시간에 지금 샌디에고 어딘가에서 지금 쇼하고 있어요.
Oh, it's a San Diego
He's
show.
performing his show in somewhere in San Diego.
Okay, that's our after party. We got to go there for the after party. We'll have to figure that out. Thank you, Susan, for that question. Anyone else have a question? Here in front.
Hi, this question's for Jota, and I'm curious, being adoptees is a very complicated experience. Are there, any shared, not to put it lightly, but any shared themes that kind of run through your community, like people have the same questions or the same desire to find a parent? And also kind of as a follow-up, is there something unique or maybe a little different from the Mika story that you choose to highlight?
Well, sure. Yeah. Thanks for your question. I think there's so much diversity, like any minority group. Yeah, and I feel like even though I made a film about reunion, it's actually not the majority experience. So most people never reunite and/or don't have an interest in searching. So I guess I would say there's certainly general themes of identity and belonging and family, but maybe arguably those are just human things too. So I'd say it really runs the gamut just from my personal experience of the people that I've met. And yeah, life is just so complicated and there's so many other things going on. But yeah, I hope that answered what you were wondering. Yeah.
Sue-Ann?
I'm wondering if the film played in Korea, and is there a grassroots movement of original parents maybe starting to search more for their birth children?
Well, I'm happy to share that we had our world premiere at the DMZ International Film Festival. Yeah, so that's where we all got to watch it in person for the first time, and I think it was really moving for Okyun especially to hear that the audience was not critical of her, but was very sympathetic and accepting. In terms of the grassroots movement, I think I should have Ruth answer that one.
Can she speak to if there's a grassroots movement of original mothers?
Sue-Ann, were you asking as a result of this film that maybe it sparked some interest?
Oh.
Huh?
Is that what you meant from the film? Or?
I know, well, now that I know that it started 7 years ago, she already had formed that parental support group.
Yeah.
Right.
Has that grown, and is there a movement? And then once the film was screened, has it really taken on more movement?
Well, I can speak to part of that, which is, I think the strength of the film is that it's so international, but it's also really challenging. So I think we've just finally gotten our momentum rolling in the US. Next step is Western Europe as well as Korea. So I really hope so. That would be a dream if it felt like there was a grassroots movement coming out of this. And then just to quickly shout out that there was also an original mothers group called Mindele, which is kind of like the generation before Ruth. So it's not the first time that they're organizing themselves, but for obvious reasons, there's just a lot that they're up against. Yeah.
Sorry, as a follow-on, is there some pressure now on the adoption agencies in Korea to be more open, to maybe try to open the files more?
If there is, it's definitely not because of the film. But thanks to the hard-won advocacy of other adult adoptees, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, I know the adoptees in the audience will be familiar with that, just occurred, but basically it's adoptees asking for a reckoning from the Korean government, and there was an investigation and a lot of corruption was uncovered. So yeah, I'll let you know when I go back there though, if it feels like it's actually having rumblings. I think like a lot of reconciliation commissions, it can feel empty sometimes, but it's still a really important first step. Yeah, thank you.
Does Ruth want to talk about whether or not her group has grown, or if it's
Changed?
yeah, if it's changed?
눈에 보이는 성장은 아직 없어요. 왜냐면 엄마들이 이거를 보고 감동을 받거나 마음속에 변화가 있어도 그거를 밖으로 표현할 수 있는 그런 장소나 그런 방법들을 아직 어머니들이 잘 알지는 못해요. 그러나 제게 개인적으로 전화가 와서 입양인들에 대해서 더 많이 알게 됐다. 그리고 입양을 보낸 내 자녀가 어떤 마음을 가지게 됐고 어떤 고통이 있는지 알게 됐다. 이런 얘기들은 저에게 해주시죠. 그리고 실제로 그 어머니들도 DNA 등록을 하시고 그리고 자녀를 찾아 나서는 분들이 우리가 생각하는 것보다 훨씬 많이 계세요. 근데 방송으로 알려지지가 않죠. 그분들이 그걸 비밀로 하고 싶어 하시니까.
There has been a lot of noticeable changes since then or around the movie, but definitely she got a lot of personal contacts asking about adopting the group, and so with this movie that there's a lot of like changes in their mind, and there's more original parents register their DNA to find their adoptive kids, but it's not very openly announced because the parents want to keep it as a
Keep it secret.
keep it as secret or keep it to themselves.
Yeah.
But definitely she sees a lot of changes around people want to knowing more about the procedures to find their their kids in for the adoptions, and but it's just not, there's not enough of the place or time for the original parents to share their emotions or the stories.
Okay.
입양기관에서는 저희 친생모들이 잊혀진 여인들이기를 바래요. 왜냐하면 우리가 나타나는 것이 그들에게 되게 위협적인가 봐요. 그거를 내면화하고 살았거든요. 그냥 가만히 있어라. 드러내지 마라. 집안의 수치다. 그래서 외국에서 자란 입양인들이 자기의 뿌리를 찾기 위해서 한국에 와서 말을 하는 거에 대해서는 한국 정부가 굉장히 관심을 가지지만 친생 가족이 내 자녀를 찾고 싶어서 입양기관에 얘기를 했다거나 아니면 한국 정부에 무언가를 할 때 뭔가를 건의하거나 이런 거에 대해서는 굉장히 기회를 주지 않아요. 심지어 지금도 여전히 입양 정책이나 그다음에 여러 가지 것들을 할 때 입양인도 부르고 입양 부모도 부르고 입양 연구자도 부르는데 친생모나 친생 가족을 그 자리에 불러서 의견을 묻는 경우가 여전히 없어요. 너무 불합리하죠.
So in Korea, and also the adoption agencies want to the original parents in a dark and hidden space because and the original family and the original mothers were heard that there are the shame in a family and encouraged to stay in the dark and not make any voices for themselves. And so whenever there's events for adoption, that adoptees are invited and the researchers are invited and the adoptive parents are invited, but not the original family are invited there. They're excluded from those events and researches. So that original families and original moms felt that's really unfair.
I agree. Okay, we have time for one more question. I thought I saw somebody back there. Do you still have a question? Yes?
Yeah. So I know that they visited each other, but has she made progress in her feelings that after letting her mom stay with her or staying with her mom?
Thank you for that question. Yeah, I'm not sure if I feel able to answer for her. I don't want to speak for her, I think. I'm sorry. Yeah, like I can tell you that they're doing well and stuff, but how her deeper feeling is, I feel like she should speak for herself. But I think from the outside it seems like, they're still working through it, but I think I tried to show in the film that there's also not, I think the toughest part is accepting there's not going to be any resolution of something definitive. It's just going to keep taking a lot of hard work and floating somewhere in between. But it's so fragile, It's like if you change your phone number, feels like you could lose them again. And then just a general thing I wanted to say about Korea having a long way to go with the social stigma. I just wanted to raise that I think that's a worldwide issue, and there's birth parents in every country, and they don't generally have a lot of rights or respect or stories out there. So yeah, I definitely hope that the film is a call to action for everyone of just questioning your assumptions about that and really sitting with the idea that they're real people too.
Well, thank you for bringing to light the story of original mothers, and so that we could have conversations like this, and this could be the beginning or contribute to more progress in allowing original families to come out from the shadows. Thank you so much. And I also want to give you a real quick chance to talk about your next project, which I'm very, very excited about.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yes.
Also, I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you so much for founding Pack Arts and the festival. None of this would even be possible. So
Thank you, Jota. I
everybody
appreciate
give it up for Leanne. And then just two more quick shout outs that I'm so happy that you were able to join us in person. And just to Sujin for doing really
Thank you,
great
Sujin.
translation.
Yeah. Wait, can we also shout out Ruth's husband, Namton?
Yeah.
Where is he?
Ruth's husband.
Right there! Oh, he's like, yo, it's me, right here. So Ruth is happily married, and she has 4 children, right? 4 kids.
Yeah.
1 girl and 3 boys,
Yeah.
right? So you had, we think sometimes that, some of the original mothers that they never get a chance to find love, but you did. And he is the nicest man. Very handsome too. Very handsome. Yeah. But just wanted to give him a quick shout out. Yeah.
한 가지 제안을 하고 싶은데 그 아줌마 플래시몹 프로젝트에서 아니 거기에서 우리 친생모들을 뭔가 메타포로 하는 그런 플래시몹 친생모들을 응원하는
I think she's talking about my Ajuma EXP flash mob, right? Oh.
She's asking to have a flash mob, the metaphor for original mothers for your performance.
Oh man, how can we resist that? Okay, we'll put that on our list of things to. Nah. Okay. Can't say no to that, right? But let's talk about your project and we'll wrap up.
Yeah, to go back to your question, for my next project, it feels a bit like a spiritual sequel to Between Goodbyes, so I really want to focus on a mother and daughter, adoptee, original mother, who have not reunited and are just, that's not even possible or on the radar, to just really dive into what that emotionally is. Of all the adoptees that choose to initiate a search, something crazy like 4% of people find anyone, and that doesn't even count how many of those reunions then fall apart over time. So it's by far the majority experience. And then even if you look at Mika and her mother, even though they are reunited, if you tallied up all the hours that they've spent together or apart, it's still the majority of the experience. So I really want to shed some light on that. Maybe add a little Korean folklore in there as well. So yeah, we'll see what happens. It's still very early.
And there's like mudang,
Yes.
there's like
Grishin.
Grishin ghosts. So this is going to be a narrative, so not a documentary, clearly,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Okay, great. So we're going to be looking out for that. If people want to tell others about Between Goodbyes, what do we do? What's next?
Sure, yeah. So from here, we're going to be playing in LA, Seattle, and it hasn't been announced yet, but then in San Francisco at Frameline. And another really great piece of news is that we're going to be playing on PBS in December.
If PBS is still around. I just had to say that, right? I mean, but let's hope, because December is a great time for a film like this to come out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Congratulations on that. That's huge. That's
Thank you.
huge.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, the Seattle Film Festival will also have a streaming option for anyone within the U.S. So you can tell your families or friends if they want to catch it there.
When is that?
That'll be the last few weeks of May.
Okay.
And then PBS in December. And then hopefully after that, we'll create our own streaming option, basically from our website. So please follow the film on Instagram at Between Goodbyes. And then betweengoodbyes.com is where you can see all the updates and where to catch the film.
Okay. One more time for Jota and Ruth. Let's give them a round of applause. You have been the best audience. It's late, and you are so kind to stay throughout this whole thing, but I think it speaks to the power of your film. Thank you so very much. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your evening.